adventurers, GRIPNR is giving you the D and delivering a brand new campaign. Welcome to the Glimmering, the world's first 5e tabletop role-playing game on the blockchain. Beginning March 30th, mint your digital collectible from our Genesis collection of playable characters. And start kicking ass at play.gripnr.com. Search the hall for a table with your favorite game master. Connect with fellow adventurers. Play the game and etch your place in history when your progress is recorded on-chain. Whether you're a noob or a seasoned pro, there's a quest waiting for you. So what the f*** are you waiting for? Kick down the door and take what's yours. At play.gripnr.com.
Actually, here, let me go.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Glimmering Twitch stream. We're back with our weekly show, but this time it's a little different. We're going to be taking it on a new adventure outside of Tower of Power. I'm sure Tower of Power will make its return, but as of now, we're going to start with our Session 0, get our adventures or our miscreants prepared for what battles and obstacles lie ahead, and I will pass it on to Stephen so that we can get into it.
Hey everybody, it's good to be back. Lots of things have happened since the last time we played, and a lot of this Twitch stream is going to help guide you through that, while hopefully entertain you as well with the antics of our wonderful players, which I'll introduce in just a second. But today is our Session 0. We're going to talk a little bit about what a Session 0 is, and some of the things that we want to accomplish today. One of the most important things is to introduce our cast of characters, talk about what you all can expect, and of course introduce our wonderful players. So let's start with that. So one of the big changes that we're doing is we were running Tower of Power a lot. It was very entertaining watching characters die and everything else. But this stream is going to be a little bit more story focused. We're going to run through the story of the Glimmering in both its main plot and some subplots of probably my own, but maybe stealing some other design here and there. So what you're going to see is basically hour by hour an episodic story of the Glimmering, introducing these characters and done by these players. We've got some fun challenges. We like to have guests and a main group as well. So our main group is Justin, Brittany, and Hayden. So let's start out with them. So Justin, go ahead and introduce yourself.
I am Justin. Dan.
Yeah. Justin.
I'm the lead artist of the Glimmering, and I don't know my character name yet.
Well, we're the characters. This is just the players at this point. So, and the wonderful, talented, and often profane Brittany.
Yes, I am Brittany, and Justin is my husband, and I will do my best not to make fun of him every time he dies.
This is not going to happen.
Yeah, it's probably not.
But yeah, a great attempt.
Yeah, I'll attempt.
Your personal branding is that you'll do your best.
Can we get a countdown over her shoulder as how many days since?
Yeah.
How many sessions since?
I think that's since mocked.
How many times he died? Was it 0? And I was like, let's adventure on.
Right, yeah.
Oh shit, we better go back and wake him up.
It's been X days since Brixa put down.
Well, if we're doing like personal intros, I was introduced to tabletop gaming when I was in high school, and I didn't play D&D. I actually played why can't I think of its name right now?
Cthulhu?
No, it doesn't even exist anymore. Palladium.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and and so that was my introduction. My brother was my DM, but I called him GM and made everyone call him Game Master. He loved me. It was great. And so there was a whole group of us that played. Yeah. And then kind of lost touch with it because life. And then actually Ron, Justin, his wife Mary, a group of us were relatively intoxicated, talking about Stranger Things and the like appearance of D&D, and we were like, we should do this, we should game, and everyone had gamed like in high school minus Justin, and so we started a campaign, and we've been playing that for what, about 5 years or something.
Yeah, it's been close to that.
Oh, neat.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I also play Call of Cthulhu, and then some Switch gaming. I like puzzle games more than anything, and I also like to read. So
Cool.
that's my how I got here.
All right. And next is Hayden. He's our other regular player.
Hi, Hayden. I'm the operations coordinator for the Glimmering. I can't boast quite as long a play time as most of the people here. I'm only 23, so I mean, I've been playing since like around when COVID started. One of my buddies was like, "Hey, I play some D&D with some buddies, and I decided I want to run my own game. Would you be interested?" And of course, I've been playing like role-playing video games since I was probably 4, so of course I was totally into it. It took me a bit to get used to the differences between role-playing an actual character in a real world versus video game logic. My first combat, I immediately tried to loot the unconscious bodies of my foes to everybody's like amazement and surprise and horror. Apparently you're not supposed to loot like people. I didn't know that.
That's a lie.
That's a lie. Loot away.
That's what I thought. I was very
Sure.
surprised that people were looked down on me for that. I thought that was normal. But as a side note,
How rude.
as a cleric, it will be my job to make sure that Justin does not die. Most
Well, you have a full-time job.
Yeah, good luck. All right, start the counter over again.
Oh yeah. 5
You
minutes.
got that ready,
That's
right, Dylan? That's all set.
So, and then, and probably our semi-regular character, Patrick is a busy guy, and he always a blast to play with. But he's coming back, and so Patrick, go ahead and introduce yourself.
My name is Patrick Comer. And to follow Brittany's kind of time track, I started playing in the early 80s with my older brother as the dungeon master. But it was also the Satanic Panic version of Dungeons and Dragons. And so, so my parents literally took a black marker and made sure that all of the undead we could not use. So like I couldn't use vampires or skeletons, anything that was in least bit occultish, which was a weird selection. So I have a redacted monster manual specifically. For some reason, psionics were bad, but spells were okay. But anyway, we had a redacted version for play. So that's how I got into Dungeons and Dragons. But more recently, in terms of the Glimmering, as I always say, when in doubt, blame me, because the Glimmering and the GRIPNR started because I started getting fascinated by how new technology, especially digital collectibles, could impact gaming. And so that's how we started the company. And I was able to luckily be surrounded by such incredible talent in order to have this vision come to life. I am incredibly busy, and so I will be in and out of this game as I can be, but super excited to be on a campaign because honestly, I was tired of dying over and over and over again. We never once solved the riddle technically in Tower of Power or went up any stairs. And so I still feel like a net loser with that.
We
however,
did get to the stairs once.
Yeah.
We heard the
did we
grinding
touch the
noise.
stairs?
Yeah.
Oh, did we actually do that? Oh, thank God. Because
We touched them, we saw them.
And then
We
left.
touched them?
We got way too excited and got kicked out.
Yeah, that sounds right. That sounds right for us. But we'll never will it do better than when we actually died in the first room. That was by far the
Yep.
funniest
Mhm.
moment. Thanks for that, Bricks. Anyway, onward and upward. Happy to be here.
Awesome. I guess is that me? All right. Hey, I'm the guest, Ron. I am similar story to Brittany and Patrick here. I was exposed to D&D when I was younger in the 80s. I honestly don't remember how I first encountered it, so I get to write my backstory there, which is kind of fun. So I'm going to say it was the Satanic Panic that drove me to Dungeons and Dragons, and that's why I got into it. But being a little nerdy kid from suburban Detroit, I didn't have many friends that I could convince to play along with me. So, I read the books and I played when I could. And I think I was even in an after school Dungeons and Dragons club in my my elementary school. So, those nerd flags have flown for a while. I died off with it. I started getting interested in, like girls and music and stuff, and lost my way. And then, as Brittany mentioned, thanks to the power of booze and Stranger Things, I was able to convince some of my friends to kind of reignite those childhood dreams that I didn't really get to live out. And we've been playing, D&D on a semi-regular basis for the past handful of years, and it's been fantastic. It really got us all through the pandemic for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, it was.
Thanks for having me.
It was a bright spot during the pandemic to be able to game. I will mention, because I don't think anyone else has mentioned, Stephen is having some Wi-Fi issues, so it looks like he went away, but he'll pop back up.
Oh, no.
So we'll just chat until he makes his way back into the stream. So my dad owned a Domino's Pizza, a franchise of Domino's, when I was a kid, and it was in a shopping center, and in the same shopping center across the parking lot was a gaming store. Lots of trains, and then gaming books. And so my brother went over there because we would like go to work with my dad. We'd be there for hours. Like we were child labor, folding boxes, used to like glue flyers on and everything. And then we would be like, oh my gosh, we can't be in this building any longer. And that's how we found the gaming store, and saved up money to buy a game book. So my brother sat in there for hours, like reading through all these gaming books, and was like, this.
Yeah, I used to annoy the heck out of the person who owned my local GameStop store, because I do the same thing. It was called Jinsky's. So old man Jinsky, I used to aggravate him, just being there all day looking through the books, looking at the little lead minis, and what's this? How do you do this? How does this work? And then he's like, don't you have any friends? I'm like, no, that's why I'm here.
You were my friend.
Yeah.
And
Just me and old man Jinsky going on adventures.
It was Homewood Toy and Hobby, which was, of course, trains and other things. Dungeons and Dragons was in there. And my mom would drop us off there for hours on end to experiment. Another fun time with role-playing games was in high school. I went to a boarding school, and there was one guy named Todd Lyles who would always create his own system. So it was all homebrew system, homebrew everything.
Cool.
And so he, not only would he be the dungeon master, he would also draw everything. So he was an incredible little sketch artist. So before VTT and all the imagery you have now, he would sit there and draw what was going on in front of us, which was amazing. So we had a boarding school campaign. And then what was the agent role-playing game from the 80s? Like, was it Top Secret? Am I thinking that's the... Anyway, he led me through a one-person campaign via Top Secret in boarding school, which was awesome. I believe that's right. The double agent kind of role-playing game. Anyway,
Yeah,
I'll
that
look it
sounds
up.
right. It was a TSR thing, it looks like.
Yeah. Sorry, folks. Technical
Welcome back.
Mhm.
Did that screw up our interface? Okay, great. Alrighty, so let's see. I missed Ron's introduction.
We took care of it.
All right, awesome.
Yep.
So yeah, let's get started. So you've met the players. We're going to talk a little bit about the characters. Brittany's coming back as Brixa,
Yes.
but it's kind of a new, improved Brixa.
Yes. Very excited about that. You sent me the new Glimmering gnome, and I've been reading over that. I've got like little asterisks, like, ooh, I got questions about this. So
Cool.
I'm excited. But I am going to be Brixa Sassafras again in name, and I'm sure. I mean, I am from the Wildlands, so I have to be wild. It's just
Right.
part of it.
Absolutely. And Patrick's coming back is Dulej. Dulej.
But now I can level up.
But now you can level up.
Excited.
And the druid's got a little bit of fun stuff in there that we'll talk about. Justin is going to come back is to be determined.
Yeah. Maybe I'll just stick with that as my name.
I hope you wouldn't, but
Yeah, to be will be my name.
You can, yes, Tubi.
Doobie.
Doobie. All right, that's better. But you're going
Tubi's
to
smoking a doobie.
be a tiefling warlock. Is that right?
Correct.
And what's your particular flavor of warlock?
What do
Spicy.
you mean my let me look at my choices I sent you over this morning. I've still got some homework to do on which things I choose. But
Oh my God, Patrick.
No, I'm just chatting. It should be to be déterminé. The French
Yes.
last name.
Pretty good.
So fair. You can't give him his name. That's part of the thing. Is you have to panic and figure out one for yourself.
Oh no.
That's what I mean.
It's a group effort.
yeah, it doesn't matter anyway with Brittany and Ron. Like if I choose a name, it's gonna change.
I was gonna say, doesn't
Yes.
the group effort
Yeah.
come in after
Yeah.
the name's already been
They were all-
chosen?
yeah.
That's when it gets changed by the
Yeah.
group.
Yeah.
My
So-
name is Xander, and then we're like, "Hey, ZZ,
Yeah.
what you doing?"
In our on-chain character interface, which I just took a look at the newest iteration that's getting very close to the finish line. We do have a chosen name in there as well. So if you've got a nickname or your fellow players give you a nickname, great spot to put it in. And knowing this group, it's going to be a great spot to put it in. So I believe your patron is the Fairy Queen, so that should be fun.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh,
Yeah, I figured I'd go with something I didn't know at all with like some because I've played a gothy tiefling warlock before, and I want to adjust playstyle considerably,
Cool.
which will mean that I end up doing the same thing.
Well,
Or just maybe grumpy instead of gothy.
Well, that's unfamiliar territory. Yeah, that makes sense.
Fairy Queen.
curmudgeonly Fae.
Fairy Queen's all about partying. You got to be a party animal. You got to be wild and free.
What if I get a pitch shifter so I go up a couple of octaves, but I still am delivering grumpily? So
Beautiful. Please make that happen.
Amazing, please.
And let's see, and Hayden, what are you playing?
I am playing a judgment cleric, a halfling known as Tithys from the lands of Coronon, who's been through a few uprisings and seen how various figures in power have abused that power, and has decided that the only way to make sure that people are treated fairly is to harshly judge everybody that she meets.
So yeah, we'll talk. Let's.
So you're playing a female character?
According to this, from what I'm looking at, I think that it is a female character. My first attempt at playing a female character in Dungeons and Dragons, but I'll do my very best.
It's fun.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, how do you spell Tithys again?
Tytths.
So pretty close to titties is what we're getting out of this.
It's not far away.
Okay. All right.
However, I know at least 2 different languages, and maybe it means something different in one of them. So we're
gonna
That's
start.
very-
We're gonna start a gang, the Dump 'Em Out gang.
Just a very diplomatic response
Well-
before Brittany's response.
I know. Absolutely. So that actually might be. I can always count on Brittany for this. So we're going to do a little aside before we start talking about Ron's character. So one of the great things about Session Zeros is not only can you figure out what characters you're playing, figure out basically what the schedule is going to be, right? Try to do some planning and all of that. I always joke that a game master is a mix of entertainer, game designer, and event planner. But we can all. One of the great things about Session Zeros is we can talk about things like content, if people want to avoid certain content, what the tone of the game is going to be. Of course, we've got Brittany in our group, so that means this is going to be a bit adult, and I'm pretty sure that we have that on the Twitch stream. There's going to be swearing, I guarantee it. There's going to be off-color jokes. So just a warning, that's has been and probably will still continue to be our play style. But this is a chance where, and I'm pretty good at rolling with the punches of just about whatever. But is there any kind of content for this group that we just don't want to cover?
I'm also open to feedback if something is offensive during
Oh,
gameplay. I can't stop swearing. That's just not going to happen. You'll have to kick me out of the stream.
I have to run upstairs
try.
in time for something.
Thank you, honey. That's my new computer. Yay! But I am open to feedback.
I think that's important, just being a human being, is being open to feedback. All of us have played together at one point in time, and usually even with a Session Zero, you're playing with close friends, and you know each other pretty well. You know everybody's idiosyncrasies and everything else, but it is important to be able to talk with your friends and sit there and say, I know you didn't mean anything, but or you don't know this about me, but and so it's important when you game with other people, whether it's your friends or you're going to a convention and everything else, to keep those channels of communication open and be respectful to one another. Try not to get defensive if somebody's told you that your joke was inappropriate, or take that to heart, because we've all got to get along. And there's a lot of tools that people use, sometimes X cards, sometimes just open means of honest communication. But I think it's important for all of us to, if we go somewhere in the midst of the excitement of role playing that makes somebody else feel uncomfortable, or they found exception to be open, honest, and respectful of that. That being said, the Glimmering main storylines are definitely, I would say, PG-13. We try to avoid content that will make people feel uncomfortable. So we're not going to have a whole lot of that. I think anything that might be off color is going to be through the role playing and the joking that goes on throughout. So
I should mention that I'm also I am disabled. You might not be able to see it from this lovely chest up view, but I am in a wheelchair. I have a spinal cord injury due to a tumor that was cancerous in my spinal cord. So I've got some pretty stellar wheels that I roll around on. So I will from time to time make jokes about being in a wheelchair, legs rolling, or things of that nature. It is not made to be offensive, but if that is offensive, even to the audience, I will definitely to listen to that feedback. But I do it because it's sometimes helpful for me to make a joke about my own situation, and it helps me deal with just some of the trials that I have as a disabled person.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, in some ways you're just talking about your own experience, so, which is always okay in my book, but opinions vary. So with that
Brittany,
being,
you're refreshing. Your jokes, your everything is refreshing and fun. And you often say things that I think I might want to say, but you just say them anyway. It makes things good. So please continue.
Yeah, I was going to pile on that with us. I'm sorry, Patrick. I didn't mean to talk over you. I thought you.
Go.
I was just going to say, with us being friendly with Brittany and knowing her comfort level, I know I've said things like after I said it, I was like, did I just really say that to her? And I was like, well, yeah, because she's my friend and that's what I would say to her.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Intention is important. So with that aside, and we'll go into another kind of aside based on Hayden's character a little bit later. Ron, what are you playing?
Yes. I am a dwarven fighter, and I don't know much about it. I think we're going to learn about some mechanics of how the guest thing works, but I have a little bit of a hint. So I've been toying around with Shara of Many Faces. Shara is Gaelic for large stone or rock. And I always loved that, like growing up, the mobster movie where the big tough guy's name was Tiny and those guys. So I like to play with those kind of names. So that's a working title for now. Shara of Many Faces.
All right. Yeah, that sounds good.
And that's about all I know about this character.
Yeah. And that's a really good point, because we've got a core group and we've got guests and everything else. One of the things, we sort of cheated a little bit with the Session Zero. None of us are coming up with new characters on the fly. We've had at least a few minutes to think about it before the show goes on, because we've got limited time. But Shara, the dwarf fighter, is going to be played by multiple people over the period of time, and so we wanted to come up with a good story reason why we might get some personality shift in there. And so yeah, I mean, is Shara just touched in some way?
I didn't know if you want to. It would be fun to work in the game. Yeah.
So
is it some sort of? Sorry.
No, we don't have to come up with answers right now, but whatever's the most fun, I think would be great, and it's something we can pass on to other guests as well. Oh, just so you know, this dwarf fighter is, and so go ahead and play it how you want, because we've already worked that into the story.
Nice. Yeah.
Maybe every single time there's a guest change, it's like a forged mushroom trip that causes like forgetfulness and memory loss of what the previous adventure was.
I was thinking he could wear an amulet that he thinks is blessed by a deity, but it's actually cursed by a deity, and that deity randomly puts other personalities in the body.
Oh, that's good.
Unknowns to the character, and then that is just like, what the fuck? Who am I today? Like
I love
a little bit of maybe that like Doctor Who kind of thing to it. Yeah,
it's a quantum leap kind of.
Oh, that's just off the top of the head as we're talking. So and I didn't know, Stephen, if you were gonna want to guide that, if you already had something in mind. So I didn't really give it much thought.
No, I'm absolutely fine with brainstorming that. I'd be happy to spit out ideas, but in a lot of ways, especially when it comes to people's characters, I like to have them make the decisions about those, and me just roll with it.
Awesome.
So which brings up kind of our second challenge is Dulej is going to be kind of the Gandalf figure in the group, where all of a sudden Dulej leaves for a while and comes back. So Patrick, do you have any ideas on how you want to deal with that? Or do you want to be as mysterious as Gandalf?
Oh, I like being mysterious, but leading a druidic lifestyle, there may be certain plants that I'm seeking out in certain regions, and I may, on a gander, just need to go find things on my own recourse. Or another idea that I have is maybe there is a mysterious person I'm working with who wants to help or hinder this group. And so I appear at different moments to do something very specific, but we don't know what those specific things are yet. Like I have an agenda every time I show up.
All right. That sounds, I'd be fine. Can work with either one of those. Those both sound fun. I have to say I'm leaning more towards the second one. It gives me kind of
having a new and different agenda every time I show up that I have to fulfill might be interesting.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think both of those ideas are fantastic. Definitely gives me and other people something to work with in the case of the dwarf character. So yeah, let's at least go on with that. We might sort of fine tune that before the first session, and let's just see how that turns out in play. So the other thing that I kind of want to introduce, and we can kind of do this a bit character by character as well, is the Glimmering is a 5e based system. We're using the Creative Commons license to present it, but it is also going to be a little bit different. So there are some rules changes that I think folks will be interested in. Probably the easiest, and comes from me now running these games for a lot of folks who have never played 5e games before, or even role-playing games, is we're simplifying the ability scores. Your modifiers are now the scores. So if you see one of our characters and you're like, why are the scores so low? It's an 18. That number's gone. You've got a strength of 4 or wisdom of 4 or whatever. I find that it's very helpful in teaching new players, where you're like, add your strength, and it's all like, I got a 41. Well, how? And it's all like, oh no, the modifier. So that's a very simple change that we're going to do. Another change that we're going to do is based on the action economy. A lot of people kind of house rule this anyway, but you can basically upshift your actions. So if you want to do 2 bonus actions, which actually, to simplify it, we're going to call them quick actions, you can spend your standard to do a quick action. If you want to do 3 interacts that's going to take your whole suite of actions. You've got a action, which we call a focus action, just to differentiate it a little bit, although we still call it action all the time. A quick action and an interact. You usually use your focus actions to cast spells, beat on things, whatever. Your quick actions are sometimes spell casting, sometimes other abilities, buffs and stuff like that. Interacts, I want to open the door, pick something up, blah, blah, blah. And of course, in between that, you can sprinkle your move, which is based on your speed. Instead of doing it by feet, we're going to do it by squares. Each square is about a meter or a yard, doesn't matter. And so you'll hear me say things like that's 5 squares away. This is another trick that I've picked up with playing with new players. Even if you're not playing on a grid, it just makes things a little easier. And so those are some of the main sort of structural changes. We're also going to do death and dying a little bit differently. This comes out of my lack of kind of satisfaction with death saves on a variety of levels. Mostly watching Justin die so often, I'd much rather have some choices for Justin to make rather than just like, I sort of felt bad for him. So it's a little bit of, it adds some things and it subtracts some things. Basically, everyone has a life force stat. Life force is based on wisdom and charisma. And while you're up, you can actually spend life force in the same way that in normal 5e games, you can spend inspiration. You may not want to do that because, at least in the beginning, you don't have a whole, based on the character, you may not have a whole lot of it.
Is that the life force right here?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And so it's LF on the character sheet. So when you are knocked to 0 hit points, what you can do next is based on your life force, right? At the start of, basically when it comes to your turn, you can spend life force. You can spend a life force to become stable. In fact, you probably should do that. But for some other reason, you can actually spend a life force to grant an advantage to one of your allies. I call this the no, right? Sort of thing. It's a little gamey, but a heck of a lot of fun. You can also spend your life force to, once you're stable, you can spend your life force to roll a recovery die. Recovery is a new stat. It's basically hit dice, but talks more directly to the mechanics. And so, yeah, you can get yourself up out of the fight.
So if I have Well,
Yeah.
I'll save my question till the end. Do you want me to? Life force.
What's that? I'm just say that again.
You want me to save my life force question until you're done talking, or ask now?
No, it's a good time to ask now.
Okay, so my life force would be 2, is what my
Yes.
character sheet says. So, can I only spend, let's say, I'm wounded, down on the ground, dead. So, would I spend 1 life force, like 1 point per turn, or could I
Yes,
spend
per
both
turn.
of them?
No,
Okay,
you-
so
1 point per
my
turn.
first turn, I would stabilize myself to get to 0, and then the next one I would use to roll a hit die to give myself hit points.
You could do
Would
that.
that be something I could do? Or I
You
could
could-
stabilize myself, and then
Wait.
I could, the next time I could use one of them to give advantage to one of the players that are
Yep.
still up.
And once you're stable, when you're not stable, you have to spend life force to stable if you have it. You might, and in fact, if you get to 0 hit points, 0 life force, and you're not stable, you are dead.
Like your
Yep.
character's done.
Dead. Yep.
Okay.
So that-
this
Don't
would
use
never.
life force.
Well, this would never happen. But what if one was to spend their? How many life force points would it take for someone to spend to make them fart and kill all of their companions? That would never
What does
happen.
that look like?
I haven't thought about that yet, but something tells me we're gonna have to. That will come up at some point. So yeah, it's a little bit. It's a mix of a couple of things. It definitely gives people more options, especially at lower levels. It does make the character a little bit more squishy. But as we start playing, we'll see the basically what the consequences of those things are.
Do
At
they
least-
reset with a day's rest?
Yes, it's a little bit more complicated, but at beginning levels, it's going to reset with the day's rest.
Okay.
It gets a little harder at higher levels, and that's
Yeah, you're not calling it long rest. You're calling it something else, right?
daily rest. Yeah.
Daily.
Is that is using one of those points your only way to get out of what you're calling a death save, or do you have that unconscious period where someone could administer a health
Oh, yeah.
potion? Okay.
Yeah, somebody can administer a potion and everything else. That's basically you. So once you go down, basically, then your next turn, that's a timer for the other people in the party. It's all like, okay,
Gotcha. Okay.
I want to cast, spare the dying, so you don't have to spend life force. I want to shove a potion down their throat.
I want to leave him where he's at and
Right.
continue. Oh shit! I mean, I want to go back and give him a potion.
Loot all the bodies.
right, loot all the bodies.
Loot all the
Loot
bodies.
his body.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that's a new aspect of the game. Probably the most the weirdest and most interesting is going to be with our spellcasters, and that is there are no more spell slots.
Yeah. Explain.
Okay, explain.
Sure.
So basically, you've got 2 types of spellcasters: either prepared spellcasters or people that know their spells. So, for instance, the cleric is a prepared spellcaster. The warlock knows their spells, and every spell basically has a default effect that you can just cast as many times as you want. So, if you, for instance, you've got magic missile, you can plink a single magic missile. Ring. No problem. You want to cast that 3 magic missile things, you have to basically sacrifice a spell. And what sacrificing means is you can't use the spell until you take a daily rest. So basically you've got a very simple version of the spell that you can keep on casting. And then you've got a big bang. Now, some spells you absolutely have to sacrifice. And some other spells have sort of interesting sacrifice effects. So, for instance, Hayden and I were talking about, True Strike. So, True Strike is a spell in 5e that, seems to have a lot of promise, but not a lot of whole payout. So, kind of squaring the circle of that. And it's a cantrip. We call that a minor spell because I'm sick of telling new players what cantrip means. So basically, the way True Strike works is it's a quick action. you get advantage on your next shot. If you miss that shot, you have to sacrifice the spell. It just automatically sacrifices. It's one of the few minor spells that actually has a sacrifice effect.
Interesting.
And
So on the spell sheet, or I mean, like on my, I have like on my sheet, I have like my spells, right?
Yep.
So is there a place where it says whether you would need to, whether it's like a larger sacrifice?
Yeah, sacrifice spell. There's every spell on the top line. It'll tell you if it's a sacrifice, it's a progressive, it's a concentration, and then the rules for that are given
like
later.
mine says minor.
Yep, minor spells usually don't have a sacrifice effect. So, okay. But if you've got all of your spells are minor, they don't have any sacrifice effects. You don't have to worry about that. But if you did have one on your character sheet, it would say first mastery spell, and then in parentheses after, it might say first mastery evocation spell, and in parentheses it would have sacrifice, and that clues you into later down in the spell. There's going to be a section called sacrifice spell that tells you exactly how that spell is sacrificed. Most of the time, okay. It's, you want this bigger effect? Sacrifice. When you cast it, you can sacrifice the spell. Some say you have to sacrifice the spell, or will have situations in which you either can or must sacrifice the spell.
All right.
And that is it. It's been a lot of fun to figure that out, and there's definitely have been some challenges. I was talking because Hayden's going to play the cleric. He's going to have to cure you for a whole bunch.
I wouldn't say have to. I'd say I can.
Should.
I just
can.
Classic cleric.
So
TT might want to.
I'm not a good cleric. I have a sort of a less benevolent, faith, I suppose you'd call it.
TT, you love us. You were going to heal all of us.
Yeah, no, totally. Keep calling me that.
She never heard that in high school. So the first one.
So basically, how do you deal with curing that can happen all the time? That just seems broken.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, it's not. So Hayden does have a cure spell. He can cast it as many times as he wants. But if he does it without sacrificing it, you actually have to spend one of your recovery die to get that healing. Now, the advantage is you don't have to roll that die. You just get the maximum amount. So if you're a barbarian, you're going to get 12 hit points. If you're a cleric, you're going to get 8 and everything else. So that's kind of nice. It gives a little bit of certainty there. But Hayden can sacrifice that spell in order to grant you the healing, but you don't spend your recovery die. So that's how that works.
A recovery die would be part of your life force point, right?
It's your recovery score. So for instance, you're a ranger. Rangers have 2d8.
Okay, that's this under life force is the REC right there.
REC, yep.
Okay.
And so so hit points, life force, recovery, those are your pool scores. You spend that stuff. With recovery, you spend dice instead of points. That's basically it.
And recovery dice, the same thing that you'd be spending on a short rest to get health back, right?
Yep, you can spend it in the same way that you would spend hit dice in a typical 5e game. So if you want to take a short rest, spend your recovery die. Nobody needs to cast a spell for it. You may still be begging the cleric. It's all like, I don't want to roll the die. I want to
beg as much as you'd like. That's
right. So that's the way spells are going to work. Just about everything else is probably very similar to the 5e games. We have sort of taken a look at classes, not only for our campaign. So Hayden is a cleric of judgment. There are no gods. Well, some people think they're gods, but within the Moonstone Empire, there's no gods. There's only virtues, and there's a few of them. There are light virtues, dark virtues. They're both philosophies, and also, especially with the light virtues, wandering stars in the sky. Hayden actually worships one of the dark virtues, and these are, as far as constellation goes, everybody assumes they are just wanderers in the sky that don't shed light. And elves in particular really enjoy trying to figure out where those things might be in the night sky, because they believe that they can determine the future if they know that. But that's elves. They're weird. But the dark virtue of judgment, of all of the dark virtues, is one of the most accepted in the Empire, because they actually run the Order of the Gavel, which is sort of the judiciary in there. They're opposed to harmony. Harmony is the elves' favorite virtue. The elves don't really care too much the fact that the virtue of judgment is in charge of the judiciary, and have warned against it multiple times, but if folks tend not to listen to elves. And so yeah, so that's going to be interesting, having this dark virtue involved in the party, but a very accepted dark virtue. So how are you going to dish out your punishment, Hayden?
I suppose I'll take it case by case.
Good answer.
You know, maybe I could say the punishment for getting my name wrong too many times is just that when you need some healing, you just, oops.
TT, stop playing. Stop playing right now. Like, we gotta work
That
on
goes
this.
both ways when you need something from somebody else.
Oh, I got everything I need right here.
Oh, great.
Remember that.
That's a good teammate.
TT, I hope that you
I'm
have a
the
really
best at
good
keeping
support bra.
Nobody's better at teamwork than me. No, but I think Tithys particularly casts judgment on those who abuse their power or in some way do wrong to those beneath them, because she has seen firsthand exactly what that looks like and has no desire to go back to it.
Yeah,
Are we playing?
No, go ahead.
Are we playing with voices, or is that?
That's up to the player.
Okay.
I mean, as a GM, I'll definitely do voices at some point in time. Patrick actually likes a lot of my voices, so
I do.
And
I
but
do
yeah,
too.
if you want to play with a voice, that's absolutely fine. If you don't want to play with a voice, that's absolutely fine. That's for every player to decide for themselves. If you want to dress up in costume, that's absolutely fine. I will never dress up in costume. This is my costume. But yeah, you come to the game table the way you are and play the way you want. That's always been my rule. So some other changes that deal with characters is we're going to see some upgrades to the druid. They get an aspect now called Aspect of the Wild, where they can shift into various sort of minor forms to help increase their abilities. Things like Bull Strength, that gives them a nice shot of strength, and Bear's Endurance, which gives them some temporary hit points and makes them a little bit more hardy. And so aspects of that. It's a nice first level ability that gives the druid kind of a nice physical buff. They still know how to speak Druidic. That is actually part of the Druidic Initiate class feature. But Brixa is playing a ranger, and we've given the ranger some pretty good upgrades. Instead of a favorite enemy, she's got a quarry ability that allows her to track her prey, and then when she finds it, to shoot it even better. And then one of the things we've done with favorite terrain is instead of one, she gets 3. Right? It's just
Yeah. I like that.
So that way it gives her a little bit more flexibility, and something that I think rangers should have flexibility on. The warlock is relatively unchained, even though we've got some new patrons, the Fairy Queen being one of them. So that's going to be some fun. A lot of the new patrons, although not all of them, I believe were designed by both Robert Schwalb and our friend Loki Williams. Great kind of flavorful stuff there, some fun mechanics. But one of the interesting about warlocks is they have fewer group of spells, but they come back quicker. And basically how that translates in the new spell system is is basically they've got a pool of points, and they can't automatically sacrifice spells, but they can spend their pool to sacrifice spells, and they get that back with a short rest. So it works in a similar sort of way, but just with the new the spell rigmarole. Ron, I'm sorry to say the fighter is basically not really. You get that nice second wind, which allows you to heal for free, right? Which is and has always been a strong ability.
You don't want Brixa to have a second wind.
No, we sure don't.
Sure they will. It'll just work a little different.
Yeah.
And so so those are basically as far as gameplay changes that we're going to go through. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about basically the storyline. So the Glimmering, which we're going to be launching on chain on the 30th, we have both main plot and subplot adventures. Main plot adventures are basically the adventures that we produce that we give you. They outline the main plot of the Glimmering campaign. So for instance, we have a preview adventure. It's going to be that we actually just got some very nice prints of, called A Dark and Stormy Night. It's one of the things, it's not only a prelude to the campaign, introduces the story, but it's also got a whole bunch of some of the rules that I've been talking about. It's got a rules primer and some examples of the spells and the feats that we have in the game and stuff like that. So we're going to start with The Dark and Stormy Night, and then we're basically going to keep on going with the entire campaign. We're going to move on later down the line to Strange Solstice, which is the first actual adventure, although it's great to play the prelude as well. But another aspect is we've got subplots, and in the Glimmering, what a subplot means, it allows individual content creators and GMs to add their own bits to the story of the Glimmering. It can be entirely quest? What's that?
Side quest.
Side quests. You can actually do even sort of almost like subplots within a TV show, where this is what the Mandalorian's doing, and then we're going to go over and see what this what this other character's kind of doing. So I'm going to be running, after A Dark and Stormy Night, I'm going to run an adventure that I'm tentatively titled Into the Wild, which is my own version of the subplot. So throughout this, you're going to see how I deal with subplots. And subplots allow you to make your Glimmering experience both a shared experience and then something totally different than just about what everybody else has played, which I think is fun. And so we're gonna highlight those things as well. So let's see.
And we're playing every week, right? Every Friday.
Every Friday. We are going to have a break because a lot of us are going to GaryCon in a few weeks. So we're going to start next week with the first session of A Dark and Stormy Night. That will probably be either 2 or 3 hour-long sessions. And so taking a look at my handy-dandy calendar, if my mouse will. So we're gonna start A Dark and Stormy Night on the 10th. We're gonna play on the 17th. We're probably going to have a week break due to the fact that a lot of us are going to be in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, celebrating gaming with a whole bunch of good friends, both old and new. And then we'll come back on it to the 30th. And then after that, we will play Into the Wild. I haven't decided whether or not I'm going to torture all of you with the first level of Tower of Power. Brixa actually was on the mission that retrieved the stone that allowed them to decipher the cipher. So we might go on just second level of Tower of Power.
Do we get to be second level in order to go on second level?
Oh yeah. And so
we make it to the stairs and we die.
Yeah, perfect.
And one of the things we're going to be able to do with this one is, before we were kind of showing things off, but once the group of first level adventures is done, just like if you played in the Glimmering, people are going to be a second level, and so we're going to level up and show off what higher levels of play are. So instead of just playing first level characters all the time, this is going to be like a normal campaign, as if you were playing the Glimmering itself.
Oh yeah,
Awesome.
can't wait.
Very exciting.
Are these like, I've got my character sheet. Are these available? Like, can people look at these?
Not yet. We're actually working on doing a full upload and doing some mass changes with the new
So
website.
that'll be with the launch.
Those things will probably be available prior to the launch. So right now we have a copy not only on our website but on Drive-Thru RPG of A Dark and Stormy Night. I'm hoping that by this time next week, the newer version of the iconic characters will be up. A newer version of Dark and Stormy Night will be up. Newer version of Deep Delve 1 will be up. Deep Delve 2 will be coming out pretty soon. That's backgrounds and classes, which will have all of the backgrounds in the games and the first levels of all the classes, and some other information, things like information on the virtues, to help clerics and the religiously minded work out. We're going to do the deep delve after that is spells, which will have we'll have minor spells, first mastery, second mastery, third mastery spells. And then we've got the arms and equipment deep delve, which will come right after that. And so, which will give you basically everything you're going to need to know to play the Glimmering either on your own or join us when our play on chain starts, and to flesh out your Genesis collection characters and start playing with us in the actual campaign as it is on the blockchain.
I'll be available for inappropriate gameplay.
Fair enough.
That's what we need you there for.
So yeah, gameplay, appropriate or inappropriate, we don't judge much. All right, and with that, players, do you have any more questions?
I do not.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh wait,
Silly question. Initiative. Is it standard D20, or do you add anything onto your initiative?
It's D20 plus your dexterity.
Okay.
It's
going to be the same?
Yeah.
Okay.
How does one calculate life force? I have a really good wisdom, but my charisma is absolute crap. So would that kind of counter my amount of life force? Like if I have negative,
wisdom plus charisma, minimum 1.
Oof. Well, man. Damn, I could have been so good.
Yeah.
Eric, you'll be fine.
CT, you're going to need our help.
I would have had
You're gonna
4,
need
but
our
I have
help.
2 because I'm so bad at talking to people.
There are ways that you can increase your life force, and some things that you haven't picked for your character yet, Hayden. So there is a nice feat called Weird that actually gives you a bump to your life force, and this idea that you are a child of destiny, whether real or imagined.
Destiny's Child.
That's right. You'll be chasing waterfalls.
Yeah.
But the rule was you're not supposed to do that.
Yeah, but that's not your.
But you will be.
But you will be. Have you seen your wisdom and charisma? You're going to be
I've seen
chasing
my
those
wisdom,
waterfalls.
yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like high wisdom would mean that I would know that I'm not supposed to go chasing waterfalls.
We're going to find out.
Yeah, but the low charisma means you just can't stop yourself.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
fair enough. Don't have the force.
I'll just be searching for waterfalls. I'll be like, oh, I think I hear a waterfall. You hear that, T?
With my wisdom, yeah, my perception would be high enough that I probably could hear that waterfall.
We're gonna be chasing them.
Yeah.
Dylan said he was going to open up the chat to some questions.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, we actually have had a couple already. We had one from DM David. I think I'm seeing a lot of brand new art. You're seeing some stuff that we haven't shown quite yet on stream. So yes, that is, and there's still even more that you haven't seen. So that's great. The Moon Possum asked, any change to skills? How are you calculating things like encumbrance and jumping with simplified stats?
Well, basically, all of those things will be modified on the stat itself. So, one of the things that I wasn't really happy with fifth edition is every once in a while when the designers, I guess, just said we don't know, they went back on that. So your carrying, for instance, will be some modifier of your stat. I've done the math. I put it out. Jumping will be a kind of a similar thing as well, where that's going to be predicated on your speed and your status.
I have a jumping scenario.
Okay.
And you can tell me how this would work. So I'm a gnome, so I'm only 4 feet tall.
Right.
If I was battling, say, a giant, and I wanted to punch this giant's balls, they would obviously be above me.
Yeah.
And I would need to jump to do this.
That
So how does that work with like a speed of 6?
With a speed of 6, you would move some. You would make an athletics check, and you would have to reach a certain threshold.
Okay.
Say I, being a halfling of relatively similar height, but as a halfling having the 3-space climbing speed, would I just be able to climb its leg and immediately reach them?
Yeah,
reach the balls.
You would probably have to make it out, even with the climb speed, because it's climbing a living creature. I would probably still have you make a check, but yeah, you could start climbing up.
Excellent. These are the things you need to know before you start.
Yep.
So, what was that? Moon Possum asked that question, Dylan?
Yes, the Moon Possum. Yep.
Moon Possum. I hope that we were better able to give you more data based on jumping, climbing, and giant balls.
Awesome. Another question from Kiba from our server. Can we expect axe beaks? I think that's an easy yes, right, Stephen?
Oh yeah, you're going to see axe beaks are coming. You will see them next week.
The amount of axe beaks that have been drawn.
The amount of axe beaks that I've seen be drawn.
Awesome.
So you've actually, Stephen, your background is the
one
of the intro to the Axe Speaks and the Dark and Stormy Night.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's Justin did a fantastic job with that. It's one of my I've got a lot of pieces of artwork for the project that I love, but this is one of my favorites.
Awesome. And final question, and then we'll close out the stream. It seems that there is some interest in Life Force from a few people in the chat. So Stephen, if you wouldn't mind maybe explaining Life Force again and kind of what it is and how it works. There's a lot of interest around that.
Yeah, we're going to do some interesting things with Life Force. Basically, it is a mix of sort of willpower and gumption. Where Constitution affects your hits, basically the core of your mental being affects Life Force, and so the big thing to realize is if your hit points are 0 and your Life Force is 0 and you're not stable, dead. Your hit points and Life Force can be 0 and you can be stable. You're not dead yet, but you're very, very fragile. So Life Force you can spend when you are not at 0 hits in the same way that you can spend Inspiration. So in beginning levels, you may not want to do that. Although there are spells and effects that can grant you temporary Life Force. Clerics have a number of those things. There are ways that you can boost up your Life Force. As you go up in level, your Life Force is going to become higher. You're going to especially want to pay close attention to the monk and a bit of the sorcerer, because they tend to basically key is Life Force. It's Life Force that has been focused into into very specific uses. So the monk actually can spend their life force as ki to do various sorts of things. Sorcerers in particular can spend their life force in order to empower their spells. And so yeah, it's basically, you want to watch your life force. It does a couple of things. One, it grants a lot of flexibility on what you can do with your life force, and that changes over time. Two, it does make characters, if you're not careful, a little bit more squishy than normal 5e D&D. Now, when you're, and so some people may see this as a hardcore mode. It is a little bit. If you're playing the Glimmering and you want to play it easier, we're going to have some alternate rules that if you're playing not on chain, to do that. One of the things, if you're playing on chain, and what happens when your character dies on chain, well, we're not going to burn your character or anything else to tell you can't play it anymore. That would be unfair. Basically, you just don't get the experience points and gold pieces for that particular session, and you can actually go back and try it again. And so that's one of the reasons why we can play around with the death and dying mechanic and make it a little bit more, a little bit more impactful, I would say. It serves us well. But if you like the Glimmering rules and and you're like, wow, this life force thing is, we'll have some alternative rules if you want to put it on an easier mode as well. But
Right.
Scenario for that. Let's say our I don't know, maybe our dwarf fighter goes down. He uses life force already to give himself advantage or something like that.
Yep.
He has no life
after
force.
you.
He goes down to the ground, and I have a healing spell, so I could get him up. Is he dead the second he hits the ground, or is it when his turn comes back around, like a death save, he doesn't have any life force to give and dies?
Yeah, that's basically you've got a timer. He's got basically. Yep.
Cool. I just wanted to understand that. Cool. So I actually have a second to make sure he doesn't die.
Yeah, the timing is basically at the end of your turn. If these two things are zero and you're not stable.
Yeah, that's it.
Yep.
Do you have to be near a waterfall to heal someone?
Not typically, but Hayden's cleric will definitely need to.
It's my greatest.
If I pee next to you, will it make you like think of a waterfall and help this process?
I was given these fantastic radiant superpowers, and the biggest drawback, thought kryptonite was bad. I can only use my powers.
Next to waterfalls.
When you're sleeping, if someone puts your hand in a bowl of cold water, do you heal uncontrollably?
Uncontrollably heal.
All right.
Constantly prestidigitate water falling above my head at all times.
There you go.
Facilitate this.
Lovely. And we'll close it out with a fun one. This will be the last one. This is a fun one. From DM David. But can we ride the axe beaks?
Some goblins do, or at least for a little while until they get thrown off. Yeah,
Stephen, you answered that
Brista could ride.
incorrectly. The answer is you can try.
Yeah, you can try. Absolutely. So yeah.
It's possible.
Has anyone
is
tried
what
to
you're
ride
saying.
the Axe Beaks in Dark and Stormy yet?
What's that?
Has anyone tried to ride the Axe Beaks in Dark and Stormy yet? That's a good question.
No, not that I.
Anyone small enough,
but
probably.
Don't give Brittany any ideas.
It's
We're
happening.
both
It's
basically the same size as goblins. If they can do it, I'm sure we can too.
Oh yeah.
I mean, axe beaks are as big as horses, right? They are big birds, but not as nearly as friendly as the one on Sesame Street. So yeah, you can try. The closest I've seen is Jack's character actually slid under an axe beak before smashing it. That was cool.
Relatively close.
That's pretty cool.
Well, there you have it.
Very Jax.
There you have it, folks. You can try. You can try to ride
You can
one.
try.
No
You
promises.
can try to do almost anything.
I mean, it's role playing. You can try anything.
Just ask me.
Right.
All right. Well, I think that's gonna bring the stream to a close. Really appreciate everybody coming out and hanging out, and to all the players and Stephen, the GM, and just everybody having a great time and talking through their characters and kind of what to expect next week and in the weeks coming. So as we close out, we'll play something cool for everyone if you didn't see it whenever you entered the stream, and we'll see you next week.
See you, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Have a good week.
Puppies.
It's a puppy.
Thanks, everyone.
Oh.
Adventurers, GRIPNR is giving you the D and delivering a brand new campaign. Welcome to the Glimmering, the world's first 5e tabletop role-playing game on the blockchain. Beginning March 30th, mint your digital collectible from our Genesis collection of playable characters. And start kicking ass at play.gripnr.com. Search the hall for a table with your favorite game master. Connect with fellow adventurers. Play the game and etch your place in history when your progress is recorded on chain. Whether you're a noob or a seasoned pro, there's a quest waiting for you. So what the f*** are you waiting for? Kick down the door and take what's yours. At play.gripnr.com.